Hello, innovators, entrepreneurs, and risk takers. Welcome to another episode of Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. And today I am interviewing Tony from Kava.io, where he leads the marketing and growth for them. So, we are going to be talking about his lessons on growing Web3 startups, as well as what Kava is building and how they're innovating and how they see the industry changing and evolving. I also ask him questions such as what does he think is most overhyped in our industry at the moment and what is underhyped or has a lot of potential to go further. And as always, nothing that we talk about in our podcast episode should be taken as investment advice. And as always, please leave a comment and subscribe to this podcast in whichever platform you're listening on. With all that out of the way, let's get into it. Tony, welcome to the show. It's an absolute pleasure to be interviewing you and talking with you about what you're building in Web3, what you're growing and promoting in Web3, especially with Kava. But my first question is, how did you get involved in all things Web3 and blockchain and crypto?
Great question. Like many people, it just by a little bit of circumstance and curiosity. I was living in San Francisco at the time. There was a group of marketers that Greylock partners put together, and somebody in that group asked, who's interested in crypto? I know a team that could use some help with growth. And so I raised my hand and they introduced me to the Trust Token team back in 2018. And they were working on a stablecoin when a lot of people didn't see the utility. Back then, there was still a lot of speculative investment. Of course, today, things have changed completely 180. But that was my very first introduction to Web3. It was in the USD-backed stablecoin space. And I've just really become so engaged with it ever since. I really enjoy the global community and getting to be a part of what I believe is technology that has so much potential to benefit everyone in terms of the accessibility, the transparency. And so glad to be talking with you here today, Sam.
Likewise. And can you please share a bit about what problems is Kava solving and why should someone care about Kava in 2025?
Sure. The reality is most builders still have challenges when it comes to cost and scalability and being able to build and without running into those hiccups from the infrastructure. And so with Kava, we're a decentralized layer one, and we combine the speed and scalability of the Cosmos SDK with the developer power of Ethereum. And we are able to do that through an infrastructure layer, providing the secure, high throughput, low cost transactions, but then also making it easy so that anyone who's already working within EVM is completely compatible. You don't have to rework anything. You can just jump right in and do things the way you're used to.
Fantastic. And what's one thing that Kava can do that Ethereum cannot do?
I think one thing that we're excited about, and this is pretty new for us, is that we've recently expanded to Kava AI, which is the first blockchain native open source AI that outperforms a lot of the traditional bigger names in AI when it comes to blockchain specific tasks, like checking your MetaMask balance, smart contract transactions, things like that. And we're excited about the intersection of DeFi and decentralized AI. We really think there's a lot of opportunity there.
Awesome. And you work on the growth and marketing side of things. Can you please share about how do you see growth and marketing and these sort of roles are different in Web3 compared to the traditional Web2 side of tech startups?
Yeah, I came from Web 2 because Web 3 wasn't always here. I feel like in Web 3 at this point, I'm like a little bit of a veteran, but it's been great to see through so many different bull and bear cycles I think one thing for me that comes to mind right away is Web2 marketing as being more top down, and Web3 is very much being more grassroots based, community based, where you're not telling people what they want. You're really needing to listen and pay attention to the market. And that's what allows a project and a team to contribute something unique and valuable into the ecosystem. So for me, that's a big piece. And then I'll just drill down a little bit into the community aspect of it. I think nowhere else, I would argue, has really shown the power of community than the Web3 space in terms of how critical and integral it is to being able to really succeed. The community, in many ways, is essential to the marketing, having ambassadors who can be there in the Telegram and the Discord and all these other channels is essential. And I also feel there's an aspect around Web3 being cooperative and Web2 being more competitive. And then also Web3 having this really heavy education component. In traditional Web2, you're selling something. In Web3, you're inviting someone to participate on your platform, to build in your ecosystem. And then finally, I think the timelines are just night and day. Like Web2, it's like you have the luxury in some ways of let me plan this product, this campaign. In Web3, things move so fast. Like you go to sleep and you wake up and all of a sudden so many things took place. And being able to have that track record of delivering and responding and being agile is really essential.
Absolutely. I agree with that. And you're talking about staying competitive. How do you stay competitive, or how does Kava stay competitive when you have to compete with so many really massive L1 ecosystems that are really established, that have billions of dollars? And how do you compete against them? That's what probably every founder would want to know, or every marketer would want to know in this space as well.
Honestly, sometimes I will have very candid conversations with people, including with our Kava co-founder, Scott Stewart. And one of the things I appreciate about him is he is always pushing, but and at the same time, he values the experience and he's willing to be practical. The reality is when you look at some of the I'm not going to get into price, but if you look into some of the top charting projects, they have huge budgets, right? Like when
Yes,
you're talking about projects that are like sponsoring F1 or whatever, there's no way on
yeah,
a dollar to dollar basis, a lot of other crypto teams will be able to compete with that.
exactly.
Fortunately, I don't think you have to. And I actually don't know if that's the game that as an emerging challenger you want to be playing. I think this is where Web3 being really rooted in the grassroots gives people that letting level playing field and gives
Abs-
everyone that fighting chance. Because I think about it in terms of the two of the pillars are going to be your community and your content, right? And credit to Eric Spivak, who I've heard say, if content is king, then distribution is King Kong. So
Yes,
really the two work very well together. Everybody talks about, oh, let's get something viral, but you need that combination to be able to have that momentum and give yourself that chance to really become a part of the crypto Twitter conversation, to be engaging on Telegram and Discord and Reddit, and all these places where it's not about the spend. It really is about
yeah,
the relationships, the loyalty, the creativity, the engagement, the meaningful avenues for community to participate in your project that are going to be the differentiators. And so that means it's something might not cost a lot. The key is making it authentic, whether that's through spaces, AMAs, co-marketing with other projects. And that all leads to the network effects, which I think ultimately they create that moat. That's what allows you to be defensible.
oh, yeah, that's very true. I would say I do see there is a lot of wasted dollars when it comes to promoting Web3 projects, because I feel like sometimes some projects become too big too fast and they want to keep doing things just for status, or I don't know, but I feel like they could do things much better on a much less budget. It's just because sometimes when it is either bull market or the tokens doing well or something, and they get an influx of capital, or from VCs, or they get influx of capital, and they make some decisions that are not as wise, which only then later on they realize in 2 or 3 years time, then they have to cut back. And I won't name names, but I know there are some ecosystems who have spent like 500 million in a year on growth. That is insane amounts. Whether it's Web3, it doesn't matter what ecosystem you take. And then the year later, they had to realize, okay, we cannot sustain this. We have to tighten the belts and we have to do things a lot more. We have to be a lot more wise with our money to go the distance. That's very true. But anyway, coming back to competing and doing things better, why do you think Kava will win with because of that differentiation?
In Web3, it is more cooperative than just pure competition. And the reality is everybody wants to win, but there's so many opportunities to be collaborative and to partner. And so, for example, we recently did a space with Dexy, and they're known for DAO governance, and they're also moving towards the AI space. But that doesn't mean, oh no, we can't talk to you anymore. We each have our own areas that we specialize in. And so I think that there's just so much room. And for me also, at the end of the day, it's the look at the numbers. Like when Kava AI announced our blockchain based like crypto functionality, general reasoning interface at Token 2049 Dubai, we announced it not just to say, oh, here's a concept. We were able to say we've reached this milestone of 100,000 people using it. And so already with a decentralized AI model, that's a lot of traction. And so for us, when we hear about other people talking about AI and Web3, I see folks like even Akash, like some people might be like on the surface, oh, you're competitive. I actually see us as really complementary and as just being like partners within the ecosystem.
Oh, absolutely. I saw about the 1 million validated incentive program for Akash on Kava when I was looking around. Oh, can you feel free to share a bit about that as well if you want?
Yeah. So our incentive programs are always changing and evolving. Actually, earlier today, I was speaking with Pancake Swap because that's the newest one that we have. And so we'll be doing a competition with them. And obviously, they're one of the largest dexes out there. They're doing very well on Binance chain. And so for us, it's all about who are the folks that are contributing the most to Web3 and being able to align with them. And I think it's important because everybody wins by being able to share that sort of exposure across audiences. And that's another area where if you're being scrappy, I think partnerships is a really savvy and smart way to go about your marketing approach.
Absolutely. I have seen, and that's how people get that early traction because it is a win-win because the whole space is so new. You might not do everything and someone else might not be doing everything. And so there might be complementary skills, complementary things that you can provide to the same user base. So partnerships make so much sense in this space. I was also looking at Kava and the dApps that are on Kava. What would you say would be the wildest thing you have seen that's been built on Kava?
That's a fun question. I'm trying to think what is considered wild per se. For me, I think that's a great question because that brings me to something that I think about often, which
Yes.
is, are we building things that are just following a meme of the moment, a trend of the moment, or are we building things that are actually conducive and facilitating the mass adoption that everybody in crypto says they want? So that takes me to the Tether use case, which is when Tether decided that they wanted to bridge into the Cosmos ecosystem natively with USDT, they chose Kava for that. And so for us, again, I've been in stablecoins a while. I think the common knock is that's not the most unique, crazy idea I thought of. But you know what? At the end of the day, I think it's continuing to prove that it's one of the most viable and accessible on ramps into Web3. And that for me is a lot more interesting than something that might just be a gimmick.
Absolutely. And just talking about what are gimmicks and what's real and all that type of things, and just talking about this whole Web3 crypto space, what's the most underrated trend you feel in our space these days? Just how you were involved with stablecoins in 2019, it was severely underrated. Right now, I think it's properly
Yeah.
rated because every institution is looking at it, every country is looking at it, everyone is looking at it, every project is looking at the BTC USDT or BTC USDC would be one of the most highest traded pairs, or most highest traded pairs are against stable coins. Its use case has reached product market fit in transfer of value. I think it's now properly rated. It was severely underrated. What's that trend right now you feel like that's currently severely underrated?
Yeah, great point. You're right. 2018 stablecoins, people would just like want to yawn and walk away, right? Fast
Yes.
forward to today, and everyone sees that they're calling it stablecoin summer. And it's funny, some would say, like, where did this come from? It's literally been happening for 7 years. So I'm going to do a boring bet, which is I'm going to go with wallets. I still feel like wallets are underrated. I think they've been around for a while, and yet I don't know if people really understand the huge upside there is for the improvements that are on the horizon in terms of the usability, the wallet as a bridge between Web 2 and Web 3, really being able to make crypto a lot more accessible. Wallets as being a gateway to how people can choose to manage and share their information, I think is really fascinating. And so that's certainly something I continue to keep an eye on.
That is also true because everything does start first with a wallet. And then if you go one step further, then the wallets connect to the browser. Should we be looking at a browser or an interface, which is really hard to do because Apple and Android control the whole market of the interface that access everything in their life in a way. But it's an excellent point. I completely agree with you that yes, wallets is where it all starts. And there's still a lot of value to be unlocked in that and a lot of improvement to be done in that. And I'm very hopeful for the future. Going the other way, 180 degrees from that, what do you feel like is the most overhyped trend at the moment?
I'm going to answer this in a little bit of a slightly meta way, which is I think, yes, meme coins were overhyped, but what's really overhyped now is knocking on meme coins once it became obvious to everyone that it wasn't like this huge sustainable next wave. But so I think it's just so easy to jump on the bandwagon and criticize. And we see this on crypto Twitter. The shit posts get the most engagements. What I feel would be more constructive is actually like people wanting to say, okay, maybe that didn't work out, but what did we learn from that? And for me, those are the types of conversations like the one that I'm having with you that are a little bit more compelling, engaging. I think we're seeing how, again, this ties into the difference between Web 2 and Web 3, the limits of personality and celebrity, right? I think it's
Yes.
very easy. It's human nature to get caught up on, oh, this person is doing this now. That must be the next big thing. And I'm like, that might not be true. Actually,
Exactly.
I'm more interested in seeing if a project has a community, for example, a developer base, right? And so
Yeah.
I think people still tend to overhype the projects that have the shiny label attached to it.
Yeah. Fantastic. I can consider meme coins and all that as part of GambleFi, which has always existed. It's just Vegas exists, Macau exists. So it's just a part of the world that exists and part of the ecosystem that enjoys in that. And everyone that does invest in it know that they are participating in something like that. And no sane person is putting their whole 401k on that. type of investment. And if you did for fun, who cares? If you go to Macau, Vegas, or Marina Bay Sands, who are we to judge? Okay, that's fine. It's your thing. But yeah, so I completely agree with your assessment. And we go in narratives, and then if the narrative is that everyone is pro that, and if a narrative goes against it, then everyone is against. And we've seen this. You have been in this space for so long now, 7 years, nearly 8 years, and you'd have seen the ups and downs of this industry. And then the whole industry echoes just everything that everyone is saying or the market narrative is. So yeah, that's why very interesting. But very few people like you have like original thought and give it some thinking that, okay, is this true? Is this, or are we just following the crowd? So that's very good to hear. Now coming back to Kava, what's on your roadmap next?
Yeah, we're excited about Deepen. Tying into your question about what's on the horizon, we see huge upside about that. So definitely stay tuned for some news about what we'll be doing in that space. And for us continuing to put resources into decentralized AI as
Yes.
well. I think AI as a general topic seems to be everywhere. And I think similar to Web3, we see an opportunity to bring decentralization into that space too, and the importance of it. Because right now, there's a small number of gatekeepers. And for
Yes.
something that has the potential to be so pervasive, we think it's important that things are going to be on chain, transparent, verifiable, accessible. And so we'll be continuing to do work in that area as well.
Fantastic. And I just have a couple more questions. One is that who do you look up to? Could be project, could be person, when it comes to all things marketing and growth in Web3. Also, again, could be from Web3 space, could be from traditional tech startup space.
It's a little bit biased perhaps because I'm also friends with them. But a couple of the marketers that I respect so much, the way they think is just stands apart from the crowd and they have a track record of success. Adelim Zhu, who used to be in charge of marketing and then ecosystem at Chainlink, and then Jay, who used to be at Avalanche and is now at Eco Stablecoin. And so they're two of the folks that I consistently would be turning to if I want a trusted opinion. And then for somebody that I actually don't know personally at all, I've just seen some of their Twitter content and I enjoy what they are sharing. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. I will check all of them out and potentially invite them and to share about how they're marketing, how they're doing things. Thanks for sharing about the roadmap. In order to achieve that, whether it is on the AI side or deepen side, are there any key partnerships you would target, or how would you go about it growing in those? Because there is a lot happening in the whole AI and the agentic AI space as well. Because everyone believes that, they'll need to interact with other AI agents, will need to interact with other AI agents and transfer value. And blockchain would be the preferred choice for something like that. Is because AI agent might not be able to get a bank account. So it might not be that simple, whereas Web3 makes sense. So yeah, so same thing with DePIN as well, decentralized physical infrastructure as well, because solar panel cannot get a bank account that is generating electricity and selling it on your behalf. So blockchain makes total sense. Are there any partnerships are you targeting for growth? What plans do you have for growth in that space?
Yeah, for us, we're fortunate that Kava came out of early days of Binance Incubator Launchpad. And so there's always been a long-standing relationship there. And we continue to be able to work well with them. I don't want to give anything away too soon, but I will say I do think Binance is somebody to continue to keep an eye on in terms of what they may be making moves in when it comes to the AI space. Kava recently integrated directly onto BNB chain. And so I think there's going to be lots of opportunities to team up together there. And obviously they have huge reach and credibility. I think in the DeFi space, I do know of some of the different projects that we are speaking to. We're not quite ready to announce any of them yet.
Fantastic. So my final question is, what is your ask? Are you looking What's next? Are you guys hiring? Are you guys raising more capital? Anything else? Feel free to share with the community.
Yeah, thank you for asking. For us, we always welcome people to come build on us. And then in addition, we are going to be at Token 2049. So please come say hi. We love interacting with other folks in the space and then engage with us online, whether it's our website, kava.io, whether it's on Telegram, Discord. Those links are all on our website, including our Twitter as well, our X profile. And keep an eye out for our upcoming announcements. And we welcome hearing what everyone has to think about it. And of course, if other projects want to partner with us, drop us a DM. We're very open to collaborations.
Fantastic. What I'll do is I'll leave all these links in the show notes, description, and comments on every platform this is going to go. And Tony, look, it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you for sharing about Kava as well as your wisdom on all things to do with marketing, promotion, growth when it comes to Web3. So thank you once again, Tony, and best of luck for continuing to grow Kava.
I appreciate it. Looking forward to talking with you more another time.
Thank you so much for tuning in and listening or watching this episode of the Web3 with Sam Kamani podcast. By now, you know the drill. Leave a comment or share this episode with a friend and leave a review. I would love to hear from you. So that's why my DMs are open. Reach out to me, especially if you are a founder building a product in Web3. Then I would love to hear from you. What are your challenges? Is there anything that I can help you or my community can help you with? Thank you once again and wish you best of luck in building your startup or your project.